Alrighty guys, hello. Today is Thursday the 29th. Today was our Red Ribbon Week Wear Neon Day, and we did our morning movement. We read a story. In math today, we talked about how we can compare decimals, and we did some problems in our notebook, and then we worked on some different problems on page 61 to 66 through there, and then students had practice problems and quizzes. So let me show you here. All right, so in our notebook, we talked about how when we have one of the things we can do is we can use a place value chart. So if we have our, make this a little longer, if we have our ones, our decimal point, our tenths, and our hundredths, and let's say we have 0 and 53 hundredths and 0 and 6 tenths, then we talked about how it's important whenever you have hundredths and you have tenths and you're comparing, you want to make them the same. So if this one has 3 digits, 1, 2, 3, and this one has 1, 2, you want to make them each have 3 digits so that they're the same. So if you see that this 6 tenths only goes to the tenths place value and this 53 hundredths goes to the hundredths place value, you can add a 0 to show that there's no hundredths there. Okay, and then now we're comparing 53 hundredths, and we can say that 53 hundredths is less than 6 tenths, or we could add that 0 and say 60 hundredths. So a lot of times students will look at this and say, oh, this is only 1 digit and this has 2 digits, so this must be larger. And in this case, this is not true. So we practice a lot today of adding this 0 to our tenths so that we have the same number of digits. So then we can just see 53 is less than 60. All right. We also looked at on a number line. So let's say we have a number line, and let's say that we have 8 here and 9. I need one more. Let me squeeze one in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. So here is a number line, and I have 2 whole numbers. So I have the whole number 8, and I have the whole number 9. And in between there, all of these little tick marks here, they are parts of this whole that are broken apart. And so if I start here at the 8, I can see how many parts there are. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 parts. So what that means is that every time I go down this number line, every time I do one little jump, I'm jumping by a tenth. Okay? So every time I jump, I'm jumping by 1/10. So here, oops, let me get rid of that. Clear off some space. So here, as I'm going down, let's say I want to compare these. Oop, didn't want to erase. Hold on, go back. Let me get my pen. Let me get my right tools. All right, let's say I want to compare this one and let's say this one here. So first, let's practice finding what those are. So here, I've made it to 8. I haven't gotten to 9 yet. And so here, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is 8 and 6 tenths. And then here, let me get another color. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is 8 and 8 tenths. And I can compare these two decimals. So 8 and 6, and I can compare that with 8 and 8 and 6/10, I can compare it with 8 and 8/10. So I see that this 8 and 6/10 is closer. 0 is going to be way down here. This one is closer to 0 than 8 and 8/10. So I know that 8 and 6/10 is less. So here again, I can look and I can check with the place value. I've got an 8 and an 8, so those are the same. I can't stop and compare. Here I've got a 6 and an 8, so 6/10 is less than 8/10. So we talked about just different ways that we can see that. Another way is just looking at the models. So if you have, let me get the 10th model. I don't have any questions. Stop it. My computer going crazy on me. All right, 10th. Let's copy. I'm gonna blank one. Here's the 100th I need. Let me copy this one. Let me see if it'll let me copy this into here. Yay! All right, so we need that. And then, what is this dot here? Place. All right, there we go. And I need a 10th. Let me see if I can find a blank 10th. Well, here, maybe this one. All right, put this. All right, let's just use here. I'm going to erase. I just want this part right here. All right, so here, let's look at my 10th and my 100th that I have. All right, so I messed up my line. Okay, and then I made it yellow. I'm just, there we go, all better. All right, so say these are the same. Goodness gracious, Miss Snyder is cuckoo. All right, there we go. We need these the same size. It's not going to let me resize them. That's okay. All right, and then now look at all this eraser craziness. All right, I'm just going to put this back. Thank y'all for being patient and hanging with Miss Snyder and her craziness. All right, we are going to pretend that these holes are the same size. So if I have this amount shaded in, when I finally finish this, you're going to be like, all of that for just this. And I'm going to say yes. All right, so I've got 20. All of this, so this whole first line, this whole second line, that's 20 hundredths. Well, if I shade just one of these lines here, that is 1/10. So here I can see, I can look at the models and I can see that this one has a whole additional row or column here that's shaded in. And so now I can make my comparison. So 20 hundredths. When I compare that with 1/10, again, I've got just a tenth, and here I'm gone all the way to the hundred, so I want to add that 0. I can see, you can just ignore the decimal, 20 is greater than 10. And I can see and confirm that with my two models, okay? So you can use models, you can use number line, you can use that place value chart, and these are all ways that you can compare decimals. All right, let's this screen and all of its craziness out of here. All right, goodbye. Goodbye to you too. All right, going back to the agenda. So that was math. Those practice problems are in classwork. If you go down, we are in Thursday, so Thursday math independent work problems where we are practicing comparing. All right, next we went into reading, and in reading we were continuing our argumentative text. So let me see, I got these all ready to go. Let's see which one's reading. There we go. All right, so argumentative text, persuasive text, either one, whatever you want to call it, we're doing the same thing here. We're trying to argue or trying to persuade our opinion about something. So we've been reading this story on page 6 about the school uniform debate. And this is a two-sided thing. So some people are arguing for school uniforms. We read that part yesterday. Others are against. So we read the no part today. So as we were going through, we're highlighting things that it said of why people are against having school uniforms. So it says those who oppose school uniforms say that it goes against their constitutional rights. The First Amendment of the United States Constitution protects our freedom of speech. This includes the rights of artistic, political, and religious expression. Many argue that wearing a uniform does not allow, this has got an error, does not allow students to express themselves artistically. They want a school dress code instead. A dress code is a set of rules that lets students choose what they wear to school as long as specific rules are followed. Dress code rules don't violate constitutional rights. Another argument against school uniforms is the added cost to low-income families. Some charities say that the month of August is hard for low-income families. This is because of back-to-school shopping. School supplies and uniforms, especially for 2 or more children, can take up a big part of a family's pay. Overall, let me make this bigger. Overall, students do not like school uniforms. According to a 2018 article by Marion Wild on greatschools.org, researchers asked 1,350 middle school students what they thought of school uniforms soon after they had to start wearing them to school. 90% of the students disliked the policy. However, half of the group agreed that it saved their family money. 54% agreed that they still had their own identity while wearing a uniform, and 41% thought the behavior problems got better. School records, however, showed a big decrease in behavior problems and gang-related activity. Because of these concerns, some public schools have decided to allow the freedom to choose their shoes and accessories. This lets them express themselves while still wearing a uniform. To offset the cost to low-income families, schools have also set up closets to accept donations from the community. So then we went, yesterday we had talked about, yes, the reasons why. So we put some reasons here. Today we talked and added reasons why people are against them, and we added those here. And then we also did page 11, where it was talking about the constitutional rights. So if you go back here, where it talks about this includes the rights of artistic, political, religious expression. So we added that there. And then this here, this is practicing connecting reasons with text evidence. So you can either click the line and move it to where it touches the box below that's the evidence for it. So for example, here, this one I just clicked, many families find school uniforms to be very expensive. If I read the different boxes for text evidence, this one here connects. So it's talking about to offset the cost to low-income families. Schools have also set up closets to accept donations. That connects to this idea that people find uniforms expensive. So I just extended the line and made it go down to there. And then, or you can use the marker tool and just draw a line either way, but connect reasons to text evidence. So we want to make sure that we're not just giving reason after reason after reason. We want to back it with some evidence. We want to back it with those details that help to support whatever it is that we're saying. All right. That's where we had left off there. And then students, we'll do this next part tomorrow. Students worked on their haunted house. And today we were working on the opposing claim. And then in writing today, we did not get to the apostrophe rules. Just take that out. We were working with the opinion writing with the actually we did funnel yesterday. We're a day ahead with the opinion writing. We did antidote. So let's see one of these. Let me get out of this one because we're done with this one. Let me draft this. And then I'll get out of that. All right, so opinion writing. So we spent some time here today, and we had a lot of people be a lot of sharing and things like that, where we were looking at some that were willing to share. And so we've been talking about different types of introductions. So we started off with questions, then we went to funnel. Today, where are we? Right here. All right, page 9. So again, we're trying to hook the reader. We want to not just state our opinion from the beginning. So today we learned about anecdotes, and these are just small little stories that give, right here, if you look, they're used to give a personal perspective, illustrate a point, make people think about something, or to make them laugh. So it's just like this little snippet, this little story that you can add in, and it just helps again to get the reader to connect. And I told the kids, I was like, you have to be careful though, because our opinion writing is not a narrative. So you can put these little anecdotes into your writing, but it has to be just quick and short. It can't be your entire paper. Your entire paper cannot be a narrative, or your score will be a 0. You can't write a narrative for opinion writing. Opinion writing, you're sharing your opinion, you're giving reasons, and you're supporting it with details. However, we can put it in our introduction to really connect and do that hook to get the reader connected to our story before we start. And then also, don't forget with this one, you have to, once you write it, you have to put in your central idea. So if you go back to page 2, we wrote our central idea here where we answered this prompt. We're writing about one animal we think would make the best pet. Explain what makes this animal special to you. So this, where how we're responding to it. For example, I think a dog would make the best pet. We have to have that in there with our little story, and they have to connect. So I told them, I'm like, you don't want a story of something completely, like, you can't just start telling whatever story pops into your head. It has to be connected to this topic. So here, I once had a golden retriever. Okay, so again, this is about the pet. I once had a golden retriever. We named him Rusty after the color of his fur. Even though he was a retriever, he wouldn't fetch anything. He was the absolute sweetest, though, and I loved him dearly. He is why I think dogs are the best pet. So here I told you about a dog I used to have, and I'm doing a description. So I'm telling you things about him. I told you how he got his name. I told you what kind of dog he is. I told you how he wouldn't fetch anything. I tried to make a little joke here and be funny, like it says. So even though he was a retriever, he wouldn't fetch anything. He was the absolute sweetest. I loved him dearly. So I'm giving you these descriptive things about him, and then I connect it because I've got to make sure that my central idea is in there. I connected it, and I said he. So my whole point of telling you about him, he is the reason why, or he is why I think dogs are the best pet. Okay. And then once you write that, you're writing it in this green box here. Once you write that, you want to make sure you go back, check your capitalization. Okay, I see capital I, going through, capital letter at the beginning of my sentence, capital letter at the beginning of my sentence, capital letter at the beginning of my sentence, capital letter at the beginning of my sentence. Then today we talked a lot about how Students, they are loving to just keep those sentences going, 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 going. We can't do that. We have to have stopping points. We have to give our reader time to stop and process what we just wrote. So you say your idea. I once had a golden retriever, period. We named him Rusty after the color of his fur, period. These are two separate ideas. They need to be separated. We can't just keep adding everything together and having these long run on sentences or these paragraphs that are just one sentence long. We have to separate our ideas and stop them with that punctuation. Even though he was a retriever, comma, he wouldn't fetch anything. Period. He was the absolute sweetest though, comma, and I loved him dearly. Here I took two ideas and I connected them, but if you do that, you have rules to follow. He was the absolute sweetest, comma, though, comma, and I loved him dearly. So I'm using that comma and that fanboy and to connect those. He is why I think dogs are the best pet. Okay, so separating those ideas with punctuation. Once you've checked it, then again, make sure you've got your hook. Make sure the hook is connected to your central topic. And again, we talked about this central idea. It's on here first. It is so important that you respond to the prompt with this central idea. This is the whole topic of your whole paper, okay? And it's not just a one word, it's a sentence. I think that a dog would make the best pet. You're responding to what they're asking. Write about an animal, one animal you think would make the best pet. I think. You're giving your opinion. Okay? So we worked on that and we did lots of sharing. And let me draft this. Get out of that. Go back here. All right. Then we went to lunch and recess. We came back. We continue talking about weathering, erosion, and deposition. Today we are in page 8. So we watched this video here and we saw some effects of gravity and how gravity plays a role with erosion. And erosion, remember, is that movement. And then we had a question over here. It says, how can gravity change Earth's surface? Then you're writing what you think. So watch this first and then do this part. And then we kept this short today because then we had library. So students went to library and did an activity in library. And then when they came back, we got into our social studies. And so week 11 today, we moved social studies down to 4 days a week just because of that interruption with library during that social studies science time. So once students finished this, they went ahead and turned it in. And then, so this was the article that we listened to about LaSalle. And it says, what did he claim in North America? And then why were the French traders interested in the New World? So you can click this, listen, or read along with this and then answer those. And then if you're ready to turn in, go ahead. Technically, it's not due till tomorrow, but if you're all set, then perfect. So make sure you go back though and you're checking. There's 11 questions for the week, so make sure you check. I did number 1, I did number 2, I did number 3, go to Tuesday. I did number 4. Make sure every single thing has an answer on it because there's some that are turning in and you've got entire answers blank. So make sure you're checking that. And then turn that in. Several of you already did. And then, also in science, we had some extra time after library and everything. We worked and made sure we were done with these 2 things. So here, we've talked about these questions. So make sure those questions are done and turned in. And then here again, you've got some questions on the quizzes where we are practicing weathering, erosion, and deposition, what it looks like in a question. So taking all the learning, applying it, and with these questions. And remember, if you've got options of weathering, erosion, or deposition, The whole reason we're singing that song, weathering breaks it, erosion takes it, and when the motion stops, deposition drops, is to help you remember weathering. If you're talking about weathering, you're looking for that example of that break. If you're talking about erosion, if your answer is erosion, then that moving, that taking, that carrying, that some kind of movement, and then deposition, that drop, that deposit. Okay, so all that sediment was just taken somewhere. Now it's deposited into a new spot or dropped into a new spot. And sometimes you get, after lots and lots of years pass, we're talking hundreds and thousands of years pass, all this sediment, let's say it's being carried down, down through a river, and it gets dropped off, let's say in the ocean. And so all of that sediment, all those rocks and all of that being carried, soil and so on, it's being dropped at a new place, that's deposition, and you get these new land masses that can form from all of this being deposited in the same area. So remember that song, as you're seeing those vocab words pop up, you need to associate those words with that. So weathering, associate that with break. Erosion, associate that with the movement. Deposition, associate that with that drop or that deposit, things like that. So these two here, make sure that those are done. And these, if you're not happy with your grade, you can go back and correct them. So if I've already graded your science here, go back. If you're not happy with the grade, correct it, and I'll relook at it, okay? All right, and that was it. So let me know if you have any questions. And we are in week 2 of this new reporting category. So week 3, and then progress reports come out. So let's make sure that we're on top of grades. I sent out information for those that had things missing. I looked at science and got caught up with science and working on the rest. So keep making sure things are getting turned in, and I'll keep doing my part. All right. Thanks, guys.